Good morning, everyone. This is Vinod from Excel Snippet representing iSelf Academy on our final video on beginner series of Excel. In today's video, we are about to see one of the finest options that we have in Excel, and this was highly used in 2016 version and above. But for your good news, and we have this options available in 2010 and 2030 version also as an add-on. This is how we manage larger data. How do we import a larger data, manage a larger data, and report a larger data with ease? We are about to see this in two different series. I'm going to take only a flat files in consideration. I'm going to take only three different file combinations in here. I'm not going to use all of the options of our Cadence transform data. We are about to see how to use Power Query, and we are going to see how to use Power Pivot. In this video, I'm going to cover the Power Query option using two different files. One is a text file, another one is a CSV file. And then later on, I'm going to show you how I'm going to bring in those data or the data which is beyond Excel capacity. That is our first class. Probably when you go back to our first class, you can see 10,45,76. So this is what the number of line items we had as a width of a particular sheet in Excel, and the rows and columns are mentioned in that screen. If you want to know about it, so go back to our getting started video so you know what we are going to learn in this particular point, and then you can see the first class where we talked about the anatomy of Excel. So I'm going to use the Power Pivot and Power Query option the best possible way. So let's see how to do that, and I'm going to use the option called data, and this is by default a menu in our 2016 version, whereas if you are working in 2013 version and below, probably this will be an add-on for you. So unless otherwise you activate it, it may not be available for you to use your data. So let's see how to use this, and I am in our data tab, and I'm going to go back to my data tab. You can do this if you have only a one file here. So if you have a single file, you can use that one file option in here to bring in all these data. If you are having the data again one file, again you can use any of these options too, and you can use them together also. So now I have a logic. I'm going to go one kind of a data, that is I'm going to pull the data, all of them, from a folder. So let me show you how good and how wonderful it is, how much of time that's going to save this, because this is what we all do in our office. We do this day in and day out. We do the data mining, data management, data preparation. You call them in any name that you want. This is what we spend a lot of time to create a report. If I have some data which is already in a fine-tuned pattern, then I want to just add a report. How fast I can add a report using a Power Query editor is what I'm going to show you right now, and this is going to save a hell of a lot of time for us. Please do watch it, and if you are having 2016 version and above, and if you don't know this how to use it, this is the place where we started using it. The first part is I'm going to bring in a text file, and I'm going to just take the text file, a combination of text files, more than one text file point, using a folder option here. So let me see whether I have that in my text, yeah, perfect. I have both of the folders in my desktop. If you are not having a desktop, so you can search them, but I want to make it a little easier. I don't want to search my data much, so I'm just put them on my desktop. So let's go back to our get data, from data, and from folder. Again, when you're using this Power Query editor, and you will have to have the latest .NET framework, probably the system will say that when you install Excel 2016 itself, so let's say that this is the .NET framework which allows you to work with something, and certain things are inbuilt in the application itself, so that's automatically added to a list. So now I'm going to add a new browse sheet, and I'm going to browse the folder called text. I have two different files here, so let me just figure out what is it first of all. The old files are the files which is 3-4 years back, so it's not a current 3 years. Previous 3 years file is what I have with me to create a report. So first I'll create the report. If the report is pretty satisfying for the people because you would have gone through the data very clearly, and I'm going to add the brand new data too and show the report out of it. So let me take the first part alone and then give an OK and then give an OK. Immediately it pops up the box called Power Query Editor, and it asks you whether you want to change or extract these three data that you have. So now I have sales of 3 different years. Remember, before I start doing any of this, I need to just come back to the basics of a Power Query Editor. That is, when you are using a data, using a Power Query Editor, remember when you are bringing in the data, let the data be in a similar style, similar pattern, similar data type. So what I mean is, if you are opening a data, for example, now I am just opening one of the data that I have here, and it says sales 2014. The sales 2014 text file has 2 columns here, month and the year of the sales and the sales value. This is the same pattern all my other files are. So when I go back to my 2015, it's going to be the same point, and when I go for 2016, it's going to be the same. Please remember, don't interchange the data columns either. Don't add any new column, don't delete any column that is already existing in all the 3 files. The 3 of the file is similar to the pattern, similar in the data positioning and all. If that is there, then that makes our job easier, or else it's going to become a cumbersome job, because even if you import using a Power Query Editor, the edition is going to take a hell of a lot of time, and if your data are huge, then you are done. You will feel that Power Query is of no use, and you will go back to your old style of doing things, and you're going to spend the entire day sitting in front of the system to just correct your data. This is going to save a lot of time, and I'm just using it for quite a few years right now, and I saved lots and lots of time. Again, your data has to be perfect. If your data is perfect, you can do this. This is not an analytical class. This is an Excel class. Remember. So this is what the basic steps for analytics. In analytics, they do the corrections also if the data is not proper. If you are looking forward for that sort of a learning, then you can catch up to my Power BI desktop training on every Thursday to my channel, and I've started working on the Power Query in Excel. Actually, that is what I did in the previous point. Now I'm just converting it to this point. Now, once I get the box, I click the button called Transform Data. Remember, when I work with a Power Query Editor, I cannot go back and forth. That is the biggest disadvantage I feel that I have when I work in Excel. The problem is I cannot go back and forth if the process is stopped in between. I have to start from the scratch. So whenever you do a process something like this, so remember that you cannot go, or you cannot do undo, redo and all. So remember, you are going to go only on a forward process to go forward. Let's see how to do that. So now I'm going to just keep the data so that I can expand those data alone. So when you come down to this portion, you can see the content here. The contents are the first 3 files, and this is the only thing that can get extracted. You can see that there is a small double arrow icon which is called combine files. You can see this option available even on top of our Power Query Editor. So I'm going to just remove all the other columns from here. So I'm going to give a right click here, remove other columns, and then all the other columns are deleted. And when I click this, you can see that it is automatically extracting the data. If you closely watch in this window onto the right hand side of your screen, you can see a line called applied steps. Whatever correction that I do in here, I can do back and forth. Here again, the process may not be stopped and made undo and redo, but whatever process that you have done inside this data can be changed at any time, even after you saved a data in Excel. Generally, once you save a data after making correction, and you may not go back to the corrected or the raw data again, but in here we are lucky enough to have that to some extent in Excel. It is not a complete analytical tool, but it is the base of all the analytical tools in the world. So now I got the extract, so now I'm going to create a report out of it. So go back to the list and I say close and load, because I don't have a sheet in my Excel, so I wish to add the sheet to my data automatically. So now it adds a brand new sheet to me, and it's going to show you a Power Query connections here, and it's going to show you how many number of rows it adds. I didn't give you a detail about our table functions earlier. Again, this is the table function. So the table is added as a, or the 3 different sheets are added as a table file here. So now I got my table files ready. I can create a report out of it. I'm going to go back to my insert and add a pivot table to my list. When I add this data to a pivot table list, it's automatically going to show you what you want to see. So I'm going to put the pivot table in the same sheet, probably in the same process. And then once the pivot table comes into play, I'm going to add the month. As you all know, in 2016 version, when I click the month, automatically it groups the data. If you want to know about it, you can go back to my pivot table class. You can see that the grouping happens automatically in 2016 version. If you're using 2010 version, probably your data has to be manually grouped. Now I want only a yearly sales to be shown here, so now I can see the yearly sales here. I do the following corrections. This is the bug that I always said that we have it in our Excel for a long time, and sometimes it works perfectly, sometimes it doesn't. So this is how the data are going to go forward for us. So now my data is ready and I can see the first 3 years of sales. And this is the report that I'm going to submit to my people. And I made it in the same sheet to show how good it is. But again, generally when I create a pivot table, I don't do them. I'll keep the data separately, I'll keep the sheet separately. So I made this with an intention of showing you how easy it is going to be. So now I have 3 years of sales here. So now the management is happy and they want one more logic, that they want to add the next 3 years. That is 17, 18 and 19. If I have the data with me, I can immediately add that to the list. So I don't want to redo this process again from scratch. This is the wonder that is created in Power Query. So earlier we need to do something like this. If you want to replicate a report, you either have to bring in the data in here, change the pivot table, and you have to do a lot of work. Here, I'm not going to do a lot of work. I'm going to just go back to my text file, and from my new folder, this is where I have all the 3 new year files. Copy them, and come back, and then go back to the old file, paste where we need the data to be added. So once now I added the data here, now I'm going to just do one thing. I'm going to just give a right click here and refresh the data. This is going to add the other 36 line items to my data. And this is not visible because I closed my query connection here. So if I have the query connection, you can see the number of rows now added to my old file. That is 72 rows. Earlier it was 36 rows because we have only 3 years. Now we have around 6 years. Now I need to refresh this pivot table so that I get the other 3 years also comes into play. You can see that I have a report of the 6 years of data in a flash. This is a lot used for people who are having a larger data from different locations, getting the data from others. Sometimes some data comes a little late, sometimes some data comes a little faster. If such situation comes into play, so how do you handle that? That's what I've just given you a small idea right now, and I'm going to make it even more a real-time data right now. So let's see, I'll add one CSV file to our list. This is how we will use our Power Query editor for a sheet. Now I'm going to add the Power Query again for one more file dimension called CSV. And text and CSV are similar in nature. And I'm going to use only one kind of data. So whether I use this file, say text and CSV, or I'm going to use the from file and from folder, it is going to be one of the same. Before I do that, I'm going to just make sure that my data are there. So I'm going to go back to my list here, and I can see that I have a list here. Use a lot of data here, so I'm going to just have for the following data list in this point. So I have different cities in India and different cities in US. So these are the data that I have in my list. So let me say I'm going to take the US folders separately, and I'm going to show the Indian folders separately. So these are all belong to maybe 1 year or more. So I'm going to just take the US contingent separately, and I'm taking all the Indian companies separately. So now I wish to see India report separately and US report separately. I'm so keen to see what an Indian report is all about. So I'm going to take the Indian folder to work around. Again, here I'm going to just taking a few data out of the equation. So I have only 2 data or 3 data inside my list. I have a Bangalore, and I have Delhi, and I have Mumbai. So these are the 3 data I have at the moment when I started creating my report. My reports are flowing into me, and later on these 2 reports are added to my list, and then I'm going to just find out how it's going to work for me. So Let's go back to a list. The process is almost the same. So get data from folder, and it gives you a browse file. I'm going to browse and go back to my CSV folder and select India. Give an OK and OK. You can see the first three files that I've listed in my point, which is Bangalore, Delhi, and Mumbai, and I'm going to transform the data because I need to combine the data together. So once I go to the transform part, this is where I remove all the unwanted columns. I can do that in the previous screen itself, but I wish to do it here. It is better always. Then I'm going to just load the data. So when I load the data, it's going to show the first 200 line items of the first file as a preview, and if you're happy with that, then you can just go to the next one. So you can see the first 200 files are 200 line items of files are displayed from Bangalore for us. I don't know whether the data are in perfect format, so let me just give an OK. Then I'll convert the data type here. So once the data are extracted here, I'm going to change if the data type is not proper. So if you closely watch, my data type looks good because when I go down to this point, this is where I can change my data type. So my data types given here. There are plenty of data types available here: decimal numbers, currency, whole number, percentage, date and time, date and time zone, duration, text, true or false, and binary. We have a lot of things in here. If you closely watch, my first data is going to be a text function. The second data is going to be a date function. It shows a calendar here. The third function is a decimal numbers. I don't have decimal numbers. Let me change that to a whole number. And I've converted that into a whole number. So then icons have changed 1, 2, 3 now. 1, 2, 3 is called whole number. And even here it's 1, 2, 3. It's again a whole number here. So now my data looks nice. So I'm going to add them to a new sheet. Again, I'm using the first option called close and load. If you want to know more about this, I'm going to run a new video series on Power Pivot and Power Query soon. And I'm doing one in Power BI Desktop. So now you can see that my data are all added. So you can see the number of line items is 4,13,726 line items. So I have 3 years here. Now I'm going to create a report. My report has to be generated immediately. So whatever report or whatever the city that have given me the data, I'm just adding those reports first. So I'm going to say city-wise sales. Here we go. I got the list. Then I just edit the headers and change the data into rupees. So value field settings, number format, and then add the accounting to our list. So here we go. So I got the list done here. Now the other two cities have given their mails to me. So now I'm going to add that data to this data and this data by going back to the folder again. So let me go back to my folder and take these two cities, cut them up, add it to the Indian folder. Let's come back to a list, come back to finish topic, then just refresh it. And if you want to see how many data do you have, you can add the Power Query point. Now it is adding the data, refreshing the entire data first of all. Earlier we had 4.5 lakhs or 4.31. Now it's going to jump to something else. But perfect. So now the number of rows are only 8,80,000. This is not beyond our Excel capacity. That allowed us to do it. If the data is beyond our Excel capacity, then the message, there is a pop-up message will shoot up to us stating that we are getting the data beyond the list. If you want to continue, you can continue with the data as added to your sheet. If you don't want to continue, you can discontinue it. So that is what we are about to see in our subsequent video called Power Pivot. So now I'm going to refresh the data in here. So my rows are added here. I want to see whether the cities are also added to my list. Refresh this, and you can see that the systems have automatically added the other two cities to us. So now I can know the sales for a particular period. I don't know the number of years here. So let me check the number of years that we have here. So we have 4 years of data that we have here. If you want to filter it out for 1 year, you can see that, and you can just see the report. Only Delhi has the report for that year, or maybe more. So now I'm just refreshing this. So refresh this data. So now the filter point works for me in a very different way. So when I click all of them and I give an OK, you can see the data are all popping up here. So all these data are going to come into play, and we can filter out accordingly. So when I filter the Delhi alone, I can see the Delhi's sales here. Again, as the numbers, as the data are parallel to one another, so it's not showing my actual outputs here. So let me just add a few lines on top. Then let me just cut this guy and put it on top of our data list so that I can see the data better. So like our SUMIF functions, we can even do this. So let me just expand it. Now I'm going to just delete a few lines here and add a filter to my list. So let me add this, add a filter to my list. I'm going to filter out Delhi so I can see the 4 years of data in Delhi. If I have the year breakups also with me. So I'm going to give a right click here, refresh the data. So data refreshing is taking a lot of time to build out. So let's keep this as a report and we can continue our data points. So I'm going to undo whatever I did so that I can see the report of all the periods here. If you want to make it a better filtered report, you can do that also if you wanted to. So that won't be a problem for us. And this is how we play around with our Power Query editor. So I made a text file earlier. Now I made the CSV file. With this, I'll end our session on this part, and we are about to see how to work around with Power Pivot in Excel. I'm going to bring in an Excel file into an Excel. So how that's going to work, and that data, it's going to be beyond my Excel capacity. If that is a situation there, then how do I handle that data? That's what we are about to see. And this is video number 16. This is Vinod signing off from iSelf Academy Excel snippet. Comment if you want to learn more about it, and I'm going to have a series of things in Power Query and Power Pivot soon. We are working on Excel user series 2.0. I will be creating Excel Power PQPP or PQP Power Query and Power Pivot series, maybe 3.0 soon, because I'm ending our Excel beginner series with this. We will be starting the Power Query and Power Pivot options, and I'll be talking about more formulas in our future. Thank you so much for watching. Happy learning, and we are starting our data analytical ideology 2 in Excel. Stay home, stay safe, stay updated. Vinod, signing out.